Sometimes, and I really do mean just sometimes, it's okay to appear to be the bad person or the villain in someone else's story or scenario, especially if you decide to learn from it. But what do I know? Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the But What Do I Know podcast. I'm your host, Chidinma, and I just want to welcome you all to another episode. I'm feeling good. I'm still feeling good. I'm not feeling tired yet. I'm not feeling burnt out. And we're in April. So, Aries gang, stand the fuck up. Okay. It's all season. Step to the front. Aries girlies, step to the front. Wishing y'all a good Aries season. With that being said, before we go any further, as usual, this is your reminder. Please make sure that you are subscribed on whatever streaming platform it is that you use to listen to this podcast, whether it's Spotify or Apple. Please make sure that you're subscribed. If you're subscribed, please make sure that you've rated or reviewed. Apple girlies, you're doing a good job. I know most of our listeners use Apple. Spotify, we have a small number of listeners on Spotify, but I am seeing that the number of ratings are going up. So Spotify girlies, please do better. Just plain and simple, I need y'all to do better. And I want to see a lot more ratings and reviews by the end of this year. I'll just say it like that. Y'all are doing good, but it could be a bit better. Okay. So please make sure that you're subscribed. Please make sure that you're rating or reviewing if you can on your streaming platforms. Our socials, we're primarily on Instagram at BWGIK Podcast. YouTube, you can watch this episode as well. The link will be in this episode description, as always. And that's pretty much it. And I think, in the past two episodes, I've really talked about, developing and building community around this podcast as an extension of the show and wanting to move away from socials as, algorithms are always changing and stuff. And so if you look in this episode description, I have a really, really, really short Google Forms survey. And so, we had our movie screening a couple of weeks ago to celebrate the new season of the podcast. And I'm thinking about a couple of more ideas for monthly hangouts, and some listeners are sharing some ideas. Some of the girlies are letting me know things that they want to do. Even at our movie screening, a couple of listeners shared ideas for episodes, and people want to talk about hair and skin and stuff like that. So, please, please, please complete the survey. It will not take you too long, I promise. I've made it really short, but it's just to help me know, one, if you use any community-based apps like Discord or any other apps, or if you don't want to, and, if you want to attend a monthly hangouts, what you would be interested in joining and what type of, community activities and virtual or in-person hangouts you want to see as extension of this podcast. It's just really just going to help me plan. I'm really trying to grow our community side of the podcast, so I don't feel like I'm just talking to myself. Because, as algorithms have changed, especially on Instagram, it's starting to feel like I'm just talking to myself sometimes, or I'm just posting and algorithms aren't pushing, and it doesn't really feel as community focused as it did back in 2020 to like 2022. Now it just feels like, you post and people watch, click the like button and they leave. So I really want to start to see what our community really looks like outside of social. So if you could please do me a favor, complete the survey just so it helps me plan out our programming and our hangouts for this year, especially because the podcast turns 5. And I've been talking to some listeners and friends about just what we want to do. We have a really cool giveaway planned with the beauty brand. I'm not going to say any more, but all I'll say is, just please go ahead and complete the survey so that I know what I need to do and I can be on my shit and plan out this year so that y'all can enjoy the podcast as a show, but also as a community. All right, y'all? So thank you for doing that. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get into our clue-in segment for the episode. All right, y'all. So for our clue-in segment for this episode, I got 2 things that I want y'all to clue into. And funny enough, this episode, the items that I want y'all to clue into, these are very catered to our Canadian and Toronto girlies. So listen up if you are here. And they're both events, actually. So the first is an event called The Dish by this organization called Hey Black Girl. So Hey Black Girl is actually an organization based here in Toronto and, virtual as well. And they do a lot of cool programming, activations, workshops. I was actually on a panel event with them. It was held back in February and it was great. It was a great experience. I'm actually friends with one of their execs. So, such a cool organization. And so they're doing this event series called The Dish, where, we're trying different cuisines and it's also an opportunity to network and meet fellow Black women in Toronto. And the next one is actually this weekend at Rosas, which is, Latin themed brunch. And I actually went to include the link to get y'all some, last minute tickets, and they're already sold out. So, I still wanted to talk about it because I felt like this organization is important. We're actually going to be talking to someone on your team about community building later this year. So the link to the Instagram will be in this episode description. This is an ongoing event. So just because you can't get, tickets to this one doesn't mean you can't go to the next one. So the link to the Instagram is in this episode description. Monitor their page. If I see the next one come up, I'll probably talk about it on the Clue In segment. But it's really cool. I have plans for this weekend. I'm out, so I can't make it. But it's definitely on my list. And I definitely told my friend on the team to let me know because I'm not missing the next one. So I will definitely, let y'all know as well. And we'll probably talk about it on a future Clue In segment. But hey, Black girls, IG information will be in this episode description. So you can go ahead and connect with them and see the work that they're doing because they're definitely a dope organization. All right. And the second thing that I want y'all to clue into is Canadian girlies. If you're listening to this episode at the time that it comes out, we have a federal election next week, Monday. And whoo, if you're like me and you've been trying to balance staying abreast of what's going on in the political world, but at the same time trying to remain sane, this may be a little bit of a surprise to you because it was a little bit of a surprise to me because we just had a provincial election not too long ago. So it's a lot going on, but I will just say, please take the time out if you're deciding to vote to just make sure that you're looking into the different party platforms, especially just given right now. There's just so much tension, in my opinion, unnecessary between Canada and the US. So that might factor into how, you look at these elections. I know for me, it definitely will. I'm not pro Canada at the expense of any other country. I'm not uber nationalist like that. And if I was American, I would feel the same way. So I'm not interested in anybody that's going to drive up tension even more. I'm looking for someone who is strong and can lead us, but still wants meaningful partnerships. So if that's something that's important to you as well, keep that in mind as you look at the different party platforms. Take your time, spend the weekend, look over shit, and then Monday, hit the polls. Hoping and praying for the best outcomes for us. But yeah, a link for more information will be in this episode description. But we have a federal election here in Canada next week, Monday, April 28th. All right, the final thing before we go ahead and get into our main segment, this isn't really a clue-in item. It's more like a pre-clue-in. So many people have been talking about this show, Paradise with Sterling K. Brown. And I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to watch the show. I have some time this weekend before my plans. So I'm definitely going to check it out. And then on the next Clue-In segment, I'll come back and report on how I liked it. But yeah, so Paradise is on my list. Severance season 2, I think, is the latest one. That's also on my list. And Harlem, I'm making my way through. So I got a couple of things to watch and get into. But yeah, we'll do a bit of a roundup and a review in our Clue-In segments for the next set of episodes. But yeah, with that, we're going to go ahead and get into our main segment for this episode. Y'all, this episode is definitely going to feel like a chat with your homegirl. We had a repeat guest and friend come back on, and the inspiration for this episode actually stems from a situation that I found myself in last year with a friendship that I'm no longer in. And I think this episode was very good because we got to kind of reflect on it in real time and talk about it. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. I feel like this is definitely this is going to be one of my more vulnerable and raw conversations that I've had on this podcast. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so listeners, for our main segment for this episode, I'm really excited, y'all, because we have a repeat guest, a friend. This is going to feel like such a good conversation, y'all. And I'm super excited that she's here. And we're getting into something that's sort of been on my mind for the past, I want to say, like 8 months to a year. And it stems from, a couple of situations that I found myself in last year. And that is this concept of being the bad person or the villain in someone else's story, or just in general. And so, y'all, today we have BK. Our girl BK is back. on the
Hello.
podcast. Yes, BK is the founder and host of the Look at the Material podcast on all socials, but y'all should really focus on her TikTok because she's absolutely killing it. She does social and cultural commentary in a very like nuanced, fun, and detailed way that I absolutely enjoy. So y'all make sure you check it out. All her content information will be in this episode description. So, girl, welcome back. How are you
Girl,
feeling?
thank you. It's good to be back. Good to talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I will say I don't know why I felt like you were the right person to have this conversation with. Actually, no, I do. I think it's because
Good.
I feel like you every time we have conversations on the podcast, it's always very like a little bit abstract, a little bit practical. Never I have all the answers, but always like I'm questioning, you know?
Right.
So I think that's why I just thought you would be the perfect person for this. And again, this conversation is not about us being the experts, so to speak, but it's very much about like, what are the situations that we found ourselves in and how do we navigate it? So
Yeah.
let's start off here. What does it mean to you for a person to be considered bad? And I'm saying bad, I'm using quotes around that because I know some things are subjective, some things are objective. So
Yeah.
what does that mean to you?
I think there's kind of two ways to look at it. I feel like there's a more objective bad, like you've directly went out of your way to harm somebody, or you conspired, or you manipulated a situation to cause harm. Like I would consider that bad, even though I still think that that can be on a continuum and a spectrum. And then there's more of a subjective bad where maybe you're being misinterpreted, or maybe like you're the bad guy in somebody's story because they just don't like the way you handled it. Like, it's based on the person receiving you or how they perceive you, I think. It's really, really subjective. That's kind of what I lean into more, that you could be standing up for yourself, you could be doing what feels right for you, but that may translate as bad or wrong to the person that you're interacting with. So, I think it's kind of like there's an objective harm if you seek to do that, and then there's a little bit more of a nuanced bad, where maybe you did make a mistake and it's just you just fucked up. I mean, I don't know if we can cuss, but,
Oh, girl, you
you know,
can.
where you genuinely, maybe just made a mistake or whatever, I would consider that more of a subjective bad. Yeah.
And this is why, no, I know why. Because didn't you study sociology in school too?
Political science.
Close enough. This is why. Because you can get into the whole like nuances of like, girl, it's actually this, but it's not really that. It's more like
Mhm.
this. Um, and I completely agree. So in my notes, I actually wrote this down because I was thinking about this last year and I was like, I don't really believe that we're all like either bad or good all the time. I think that I look at it as a culmination of your decision making on your behaviors over like a course of time. That
Yeah.
sounds like such a definition for a sociology textbook.
But it's kind of on point.
Yeah, like I think like if I look at your decision making over like 6 months and you like for the most part you were good, for the most part your decision making brought good to people, for the most part you made people happy, you were good.
Yeah.
If your decisions were, harmful or you lied because you were afraid or you did then we can get into the subjective. Okay, you were kind of bad, you were kind of good. Like, it's a little bit more subjective,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's how I look at it. So I am on the same sort of wavelength as you where I
Yeah.
don't think it's just good or bad. I think it's very much like it's a lot more subjective.
Yeah, and I will say, like, this view has developed a lot. I used to be way more binary in my thinking, like, and I don't know if it's because of my, like, evangelical Christian upbringing, where
Mhm.
things were either demonic or they weren't, or they were
Mhm.
bad or they weren't, or evil or good. And so you just see, or it's like, oh, you don't believe in Jesus? Okay, check, you're going to hell. Like, there just was a
Yeah.
very binary way of seeing people. So it has taken me a lot of time to like think about nuance, think about grace, think about like, okay, well, was it bad or was it maybe hurtful or surprising or disappointing? Like, and I
Mhm.
think that just comes with like maturity and time.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think for me too, I've had to reshape, rethink about this a lot. Um, because life like, we can sit here and say, I will never do this, but life just has a way of putting you in situations that you said you were not going to be in. And then you're confronted with it and you're like, fuck, now I'm the bad person.
Yes.
So yeah, life experiences and just life in general has just made me say I can't sit here and say that someone is bad. And that stems from someone who lied, someone who took cookies out of the jar, all the way to someone who's in the streets. Like,
Yep.
I can't say that you're good or bad all the time. I have to look at your reasoning behind your decision making,
That's good.
because a
Yeah.
lot of the things that are considered like social norms or why we act in a certain way are also linked to, faith and religious institutions and certain rules of moral code. And
Yes.
so,
Even just, like, from a puritanical standpoint,
yeah.
you think about how white supremacy feeds into this
Mm-hmm.
idea of good, bad, or even, like, professional, unprofessional. Like, is it
Yes.
is it really bad, or is it just falling outside of these typical societal norms? That's a great
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah. So you've been here before, so you already know this next question. I'm looking for your but what do I know moments. Where girl, you were like, yo, but what do I know about? Like, I feel like I'm the bad person in the situation, but what do I know about how to actually like navigate this, deal with it? Do I just sit in it, So
Yeah.
what moment did you feel
Um,
like that? And yeah.
my moment is specifically within friendships, like, but what do I know
Girl,
about
same.
friendships? I have just discovered recently, actually, we had to do something called a biopsychosocial assessment in one of my human behavior classes. And I chose my mom. And so we
Mm.
had to just get the background and all this stuff. And there was one portion where I asked about her interpersonal relationships and friendships. And she said that she chose to pursue romantic relationships because she saw her mother die of cancer without a partner. And
Mm.
so from that point, she was, like, in her 30s, she it would just set out on this mission to solely focus on romantic relationships. That marinated in my body as like, wow, okay, I've witnessed my mom not really pursue female friendships or platonic friendships or manage them. Like, I think the girlfriends that I saw her have, like, they were either super, super close
Mm.
or and then one day it would just be over and it's like, "Oh, I don't mess with her anymore," or she did this one thing, and
Right.
I never really saw how to address issues with a friend
Mm.
without it being a fight or being like, "I don't wanna be your friend anymore." And so, I was the bad guy, in a scenario where I wanted to bring something up to my friend, and it had been in my spirit for a long time. And the way I went about it was just raggedy. It just was
Okay.
raggedy. Like,
Okay.
it just and I was like, "Wow, what do I know about?" I guess I don't know much, and I'm learning a lot, and kind of that was my bad guy moment. I reached out over text, and I was like, "I have this thing to tell you, but I don't feel comfortable on the phone, so let's just text about it." And I even just if we just stop right there, like, I didn't even give
Fair.
her the
Girl,
option.
you did better than me. Wait till we get to mine.
Okay. I'm very interested. But it was
Mm.
like, I didn't even give her the option to be like, "Well, no, can we FaceTime or can we," and she
Mhm.
lives it's a long distance friend. So, every communication always breaks down in text. Like you can't
Yep,
really
I
tell
hate it.
tone,
Yeah.
and then I was like, "Well, let's switch to audio." And it really was because I didn't have the courage to say plainly what the problem was
Mhm.
and how we can move forward. Like,
Mhm.
I just didn't have the tools at the time.
Mhm.
And I'm just kinda, like, telling her everything that's wrong with her. And I mean, she genuinely was like, "I'm crying right now, and I'm shocked, and this is out of nowhere, and are you saying you don't wanna be my friend anymore?" No, like, I no, we're not just gonna end this, and so
Ooh.
it has since, we are better than ever because we actually had to have, like, a deeper dive on that, and, there was kind of this idea that I had that because we had some core differences in the things that we were interested in, that we couldn't be friends, which sounds really immature, like, now like, years separated from it, but I think at the time, I was like, I just feel like we're not relating, and I feel like, maybe you think you're better than me because you know this thing and I don't know this thing, and I don't even think that was what was happening. Maybe I felt insecure because I didn't have all the answers, or I
Right.
couldn't be the smartest person in the relationship at that point, like,
Mm.
so, I mean, eh, that is kind of, the moment when you initially, like, reached out to me about this topic. I was like, "I'm gonna have to
Yeah, I
talk about
remember.
this thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because when
I'm
we
gonna have."
started, you were like, "Oh, this is actually on point. I just went through something."
Yes, like, this is good. This is
Mhm.
and I think it's just important to highlight it and talk about it. We always wanna talk about, like, "Oh, this is when I was the better person," or, "This is when I succeeded in this," and instead of, like, "This is when I mishandled it, and this is when I kinda was the bad guy." So I thought the topic in general was so brilliant and vulnerable. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you know what it is, like, I like to think that I'm, like, a self-aware person. So when and that I'm, like, sitting down and taking stock of, like, my actions and stuff. And so when I was just reflecting on it, I said, "You know what, Chid, you could have done better, but you know what, we're gonna do better in 2025." That's
Yes,
that's what I just
there's
chalked it
always
up to. I
next
said,
year.
"You know what? You were just a little bit tired of that situation. You're gonna take this as a lesson and you're gonna move forward." But
Yeah.
I really appreciate you saying that because I think a lot of "but what do I know" moments pertaining to being the bad person would stem from at least what I kind of received that you're saying is it stemmed from a little bit of like because you said you didn't have the courage, and that's similar to mine too. We're gonna get into these scenarios a bit deeper shortly, but I feel like that was mine too. Was like I just didn't have. I was a little bit afraid of like how it would happen, and I don't want to connect it too much to my attachment style because I think for the most part I am secure. But if I was to lean to an insecure attachment style, I do tend to be more avoidant sometimes,
Yeah.
depending on what it is, especially if it's more of a friendship and I feel like we know what's going on, like, okay, we're rocking and rolling. This is, I wouldn't say a low maintenance friendship, but it's steady. Like, we're
Yeah.
busy. We don't have to talk regularly. So if something happens and now I'm quick, okay, bye. So,
Yeah.
and I don't do that often. Like, I swear, my girls, if you're listening, I'm not ghosting you.
No,
We're,
same. I think God ain't done with us yet, but, like,
yeah,
we've learned.
exactly. God ain't done with us because you never know. We might just get thrown another test next month.
Oh god, yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely appreciate you even talking about that lack of courage in that moment. And I think that's what it stems from is this idea of like, I think there's a little bit of fear that's mixed in there. I think it's
Mhm.
like fear of how the person will receive it, and sometimes in the bid to not look like a bad person, then we end up looking like a bad person because you were
Yes.
trying too much.
And even the avoidant, like, tendency, I've found that you end up being the bad guy when you avoid telling people how you really feel or avoid addressing things, like, that's not fair to the other person.
Mhm, mhm. So I do wanna kinda dig a little deeper into into our scenarios, and I'm gonna share mine, but, for yours, you don't have to get, specific into it, but what do you think your feelings were that kinda led to you just, like, unloading and being like, "Girl, blah, 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 blah."
Yeah, so I remember exactly what it was. We were in the car with some friends, and we were talking about, Euphoria, the
Okay.
TV show,
Mhm.
and my friend is a huge movie buff. Her degree's in film.
Mm.
She worked for Netflix at one point, like, she's a buff, right? And, sometimes I feel like which could have been a nugget of truth was, like, there is sometimes a bit of a pretentious
Mm.
air, about it, like, "Oh, you didn't get that?" Or, like, you know? And I think I wanted to communicate that feeling of, like, I don't like how that feels.
Mhm.
But yeah, we were having this discussion about nudity in the show, particularly male nudity. And I
Mm.
know that, Sam Levinson was like, "We always see breasts and we always see, like, female nudity, but we hardly ever see male nudity that's not being made fun of or, whatever." And I felt like it was ironic that he said that because I felt like he did just that in the show.
Oh, okay. See, I haven't seen
Um,
it.
yeah, we'll leave that there.
Say no more.
Uh And I was like, "No, I feel like, he made a mockery of the male form." And she's like, "Well, no, and, we're just going back and forth, like, and it's just a TV show, and it's just, but there was obviously something, like, underneath that, like, why do we feel like we're having some sort of intellectual tussle right now that has, like, high stakes or something like that? Like, we're just
Mhm.
talking about a TV show." And,
Mhm.
like, she could have been PMSing, she could have been hungry, she could have been like, it didn't have to be such a like, I didn't have to think that, like, "Oh, wow, you're trying to, like, dunk on me. You're trying to," and I think, looking back on it, I have a hard time being wrong in front of people. Like, if it's happening
Oh.
in my own, like, world, I'm fine, but,
I'm so sorry to cut you off, girl. I
no,
get embarrassed when I make mistakes. Like,
like,
yeah,
embarrassed.
like you don't take my mistake harder than I do. Regardless of
No,
whatever feedback you're telling me, I'm
you could
so
never.
annoyed and I'm embarrassed.
Yes, and I
Girl,
think
like
that's what I was feeling, was like, "Okay," and then I think the other people in the car were, like, agreeing with her, like, I don't know what was going on,
mhm.
and I'm like, I couldn't parse it out as ego at the time. I couldn't parse it out as, like, fear of not knowing and being wrong at the time, and so I was just like, you know, we don't even like the same things. Like, you like this and I like that. And, you think and, I just feel like you embarrassed me. And I mean, instead of asking open-ended questions and maybe getting a gauge of like how she was actually feeling, I just was immediately accusatory. I'm like,
Mm.
a and it was like an essay. Like, it was foul. Like, I was like, "And this, and that, and that," and at a certain point, it's just unfair. Like, if something happened 2 years ago and you're holding on to it until, like, this very moment to now, like, air it out, like, that's just unfair.
Mhm.
Um and it's kinda like dogpiling, and so, yeah, it was literally over a TV show, which I knew was, like, already her domain and everything like that, and I felt like, "No, like, I have a different opinion," and I just don't think I knew how to handle, number 1, having a difference of opinion in that moment, but then also the ego of being like, "You maybe know more, and you have a little bit more experience than me," in front of, like, a car full of people. So, yeah.
Oh, girl. I just echo what you're saying because for me, I think and it's funny cuz my man has like told me this. He's like, "You know you can make mistakes, right? Like one thing about you don't like." And I'm like, girl, one time I was boiling eggs with this man at his house, and I think it was like the first time I was boiling eggs and I was like really cooking. And I was like, gotta show him that I can cook.
Um, I feel you, though. I feel you.
And like I probably didn't put enough water into the eggs, so, like, when you're peeling it off, it wasn't as smooth, and he's doing it, and he's like, "Yeah, no, babe, like, next time, just, like, add a little bit more water to it," and I'm like in my head, I'm, "God damn, I know how to do this. I do this all the time, and the one time it's time to really show and prove, I fuck up."
Oh my god. The boiling eggs. Oh my god.
But I say that to say, like, yeah, sometimes I get embarrassed, like, even at work, like, I made a mistake sometime, like, a couple of days ago, actually, and the person that I'm working with, it was so awkward because 'cause we're also kinda cool outside of work, and so she's like, "Oh,
Who
I just put a meeting in your calendar to debrief," and I'm like, "Oh, here we fucking go." Not the
Mhm.
debriefing of the mistake. I hate
Like, oh
corporate,
my
bro.
worst nightmare type sh
Bro, once you
that
I'm
nightmare
like
fuel.
and with me, if I'm wrong one thing about me, if I'm wrong, I'm gonna tell you I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry from here to tomorrow. So as soon as she came to my desk talking about, "I just wanna talk about," I said, "Girl, don't worry. I know I'm wrong. I apologize right now. That's why I stayed up with you to fix my mistake. It didn't take me that long at all. Like, I didn't catch this. I'll catch it next time, girl. Don't even it's on me." Okay?
It's on
Yeah,
me.
it's on me. She's like, "Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that." I said, Don't worry. Don't worry." Like,
I'll do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's one thing about me. Like, and I know where it stems from. Like, I think
Mm.
and shout out to my parents, I love them, but there was a lot of pressure when I was growing up in the academics area and just in life, and then being the eldest and kinda not taking care that I in a way that, like, I raised my siblings, but just
Yeah.
kinda setting some standards. So, like, I
Yes.
remember when I was young, I think I was in, like, 1st year of high school or something, I think I had gotten, like, a 65% on an exam, and our parents were supposed to, like, review and sign it. I ripped it off and I put it in my locker. My parents never saw that shit. So
That's so real. You ripped it up.
No, this podcast episode is getting real.
You know, like we're kind of airing out our shit.
So I said that to say, now that you guys are warmed up, let's get into the story. So I was friends with this person, right? And our friendship was great. And our friendship was great when we were not in relationships. And it was great. And you know, she has a certain dating style. I have a certain dating style.
Okay.
She also likes dating men that are significantly older, like a little bit more than twice our age.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, like 2 years ago, there just started to be this person that she was seeing that it got like kind of like, I guess, real in my head. Girl, I thought it was fake. I thought we were just having fun getting money and that was it.
Right.
And it was gonna end.
Right.
But then like it started being consistent and I was like, oh, okay. And I was also on some like, I'm not judging you. Do what you want, but also understand that I can't, because it would be a thing of like, oh, he's getting tickets to this, like, come. Like I'm chilling at home. It's like, oh, like, and the scenario I'm thinking of right now was summer. So I'm remembering it vividly. It was like, oh, like Cabana Pool Bar, like come hang out. And I'm like, I don't want to really be with you guys. Like, this is kind of awkward. Like, just do your thing, girl. It's okay, you know? And then at the same time, that was when me and my men were also courting and starting to get a little bit, you know, deeper into our like situation.
Yeah.
I'm not saying situation because we're in a situationship. We were courting,
No.
guys.
That's your man.
Yeah.
That's her man.
I'm just saying situation because that's the word I could think of.
Yeah.
But, you know, we were also like doing that. So, and then there were like a couple of times where it was like, oh, like tell your man to come double date with us. And I'm like, so you want my 29-year-old black man to sit at a dinner with like a 50-something-year-old white man? What are we finna talk about? What are we talking about? So I like tried to drop hints of like, girl, it ain't gonna happen. Like at least not now, because none of us around really thought this was serious.
Right.
And then it kind of escalated to like, oh, he's telling me he loves me. Oh, I don't know. And then I was like, okay, but you know, like, are your parents okay with this? Oh, I don't know. Like, I don't really care because I don't have that good of a relationship with them. Okay, cool. So then somehow we kind of just started drifting apart. Like, she was busy with certain life things. She was doing like a certain important like milestones, work. I was also doing some things. I remember that year I was also traveling as well. And then I remember it just got awkward. There was this concert that was coming. It was Burna Boy. Burna Boy was coming to Toronto, and I was like, okay, like, girl, you know, it's that time. Let's go. And then a couple of days later, she messaged me and she was like, okay, like, what day do you want to go for? And then I did say, I was like, okay, girl, I'm really sorry. But in the couple of days that, like, you know, you kind of got back to me, I thought about it. I still want to go with you, but my man loves Burna Boy and I want to get him tickets for his like birthday. I will still go with you. You and another friend, or you and your man, like whatever. We can make it a whole group thing. We can still go. Or I can go with you on the second day, just me and you. I got a message saying, I had sent that in a voice note and explained everything. I got a text message saying like, LOL, don't worry about it. I have another friend I can go with. I said, oh, okay. All right, I know what this is going. And mind you, before this, the milestone that she was working towards hitting was a milestone that like I had been there through the step of the way. It was fitness related. I had been there through every step of the way. And then at like the height of the milestone, it was like an event. I wasn't invited to the event. I found out through Instagram. So I was like, oh, okay. And
Okay, so
again,
you
I was kind of like, huh, that's so fucking strange, because when you were doing this the last year, it was me kind of driving you around, like whatever. But I didn't get mad because I'm like, I do understand that me and you have just been kind of gradually drifting apart. So
Yeah.
you're also seeing me kind of posting on Instagram that I'm in New York, and I get it. You might kind of feel some type of way, whatever. So there was the milestone thing I wasn't invited for. Then the funny thing is, so okay, after that milestone thing happened, she posts on Instagram. To anybody else, it would look like she was there by herself. I knew she was with a man. I could tell. And then there's the fast forward to the Burna Boy thing. It's like, oh, no, girl, I have another friend I can go with. Okay, cool, no problem. Then, then like birthdays come around. It was just like, oh, happy birthday, cool, happy birthday. Yeah. So like now, like 9 months go by. Okay. We're not talking to each other, nothing. 9 months go by. I get a text like, hey, Chid, we've left things hanging. I want to know if you want to have dinner. I messaged my other friend. I'm like, yo, I don't want to have dinner. I don't care. It's been 9 months. And the reason I was in that mind, because I'm like, it's 9 months. I've thought about this. I felt bad. I've gotten over it. I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind again. And I'm finally in a space where I just don't care anymore.
Mm.
So I'm taking my sweet time. I also do this when I'm afraid and I'm avoid it. One day goes by, 2 days, 3 days. I think it was on day 4. I get a message saying, I'm going to take your silence as a no. I said, oh, hell no, girl. I know you're not putting me on a time clock.
Oh, after 9 months.
Yeah. I said, you know what? Whatever. Think what you want. Not getting a response. Still haven't responded to that message till today.
Oh, what a plot twist. I literally thought y'all were going to have some back and forth after that. Oh my God.
Nope. Did not respond. So I am the bad person because, and I was talking to my sister about it. She's like, maybe you should muster up the courage to like respond to her. And I was like, bro, how the fuck are you gonna come back after 9 months and put me on a time clock? Let me at least give me a week at least.
Yeah.
But then also, yes, I could have absolutely mustered up the courage to tell you that I thought it was weird that you wanted me to now double date with this man that I don't care about or know, or like I don't care.
Yeah.
Should have told you it was weird that I wasn't invited to your milestone thing. The tone with the burn up late, we were just drifting away.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like, maybe I don't have to say shit. Maybe you just get the point. We could just both move
No,
on.
that's true. And there's like those like, and my avoidance side is like, yeah, exactly. Like maybe, they just
Get
and
the
then
point. Get the point, bitch. Get the point.
and then the other side is like when you laid it out, like there was opportunities to be
Yeah.
like, hey, is everything good?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. And that's why I was like, damn. And then I had to kind of look at my other girls and be like, so any of y'all have, like, is a situation gonna break us apart? But no, we're all, the rest of us are good. We're okay. But yeah, that was just really awkward. It was just more awkward more than anything. And I
Yeah.
think
And then
I'm learning a lot to be like, and again, I wasn't judgmental. I like, believe it or not, I didn't care. I really didn't care. It's just more like, and I think it confused me because on one end you're telling me like, you want to meet someone that's younger and more serious and you do want to, meet and have this young love, but then your actions aren't saying that. And it's okay. Like, girl, have fun, do whatever you're doing. But then at the same time, it just seemed like you were making a lot of decisions around this person all of a sudden. And then now wanting me to kind of be in it, like, why do I have to be in it? I don't care.
yeah, kind of like triangulating you
Yeah.
in
And then
that. Yeah.
and my man's over there like, girl, I don't owe that girl anything. I said, you know what, you're right. They want us to meet over dinner though. And
Right. Oh
he's
God.
like, I ain't going to dinner with those people. I said, oh God. It was just so
Oh my God.
so
They be so
awkward.
direct.
I know. He's like, so what am I supposed to talk to this man about? I said, babe, I don't know. Think of something.
Ask about sports. I don't know.
Oh my God. No, yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. With that, I do think like, okay, obviously in your situation, you were not comfortable being the bad person, right? But do you think that, are there ever times where you can kind of say like, yeah, looking back, I was the bad person and I'm comfortable and I'm fine with that?
I did kind of have a situation where um I had a falling out with a friend that I've known since middle school.
Mm.
And I felt that the way this is literally what happened because maybe like I don't know, but we went out. She just like moved to our city, and she got really really drunk,
Mm.
and she ended up walking off with a guy that was there in the area. My phone died, and neither of the people we were with had her number. So I turn around and I'm like, she's not there. We like walk the entire block screaming her name, like, where are you at? Where are you at? It's like 2 in the morning. Like, we gotta go. Um, I'm like, okay, at this point, I have to go to the car, charge my phone, call her, find her, all this stuff. And oh, she assumed the worst. like, don't ever leave me like that again. How dare you? You know, and just really accusing me of just like abandoning her in a new city and whatever. And I was like, I'm not trying to like victim blame or anything like that, but like we were all walking as a group. You walked off. We're all drunk, mama. We're all drunk, mama. Like,
Okay.
and I'm not a babysitter. And so
Correct.
I just thought like when I explained like what happened and that my phone was dead and I had to go charge it and like explain the whole thing, it was still like, no, like I think that you purposefully did this. And so I think I sent like an audio back or whatever and was like, well, this is what happened. And whatever the case may be, like, I'll get you your stuff, and that's all we have to and I think she was just trying to keep engaging with me, and I either ghosted or blocked or both,
Mhm, mhm.
and looking back on it, I'm like, "Yeah, don't really care," like, I don't care, like, I probably should've been a little bit more diplomatic in that situation, but we have decades of rapport at this point, and we had just reconnected because she moved to the city, and you didn't take ownership of, like, leaving the group and leaving with a strange man,
Yeah.
um, and you assumed the worst of me. Like, I literally was, like, going back in my head, like, "Could I have done anything, like, different? Like, did I have some subconscious malicious intent and I accidentally abandoned her?" No, mama, you were trying to make me feel like I was the villain, and honestly, maybe if she retold the story one day, I would be the villain, and I'm okay with that. I'm
Oh,
okay with that.
okay. Yeah. No, I hear you. And even in this situation, like I'm half okay with it. There's a part of me that's like, you know what? And there's a part of me that's like, yes, maybe you should have just had some sort of a closing conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't want to have a closing conversation over dinner too. Like,
Ooh,
no.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So okay. I do want to talk about when like because yes, we can be comfortable being the bad person in certain situations, but there are some times where it may be like a deeper issue or deeper problem if it's consistent.
Yeah.
I love that you're nodding your
Yeah.
head like, "Yeah, girl." Um, and I feel like so I did find this article because I was looking into just, like, some notes and stuff to figure, like, okay, what are signs that, like, this could be more than just me being like, "Oh, I'm okay to be the villain in your story." And some things were like, okay, self-centered behavior. I
Mm,
can see that if it's consistent.
yeah. Yeah, I think, like, the self-centeredness and then also, like, operating solely out of ego and
Mhm.
emotion, which also kinda ties into being self-centered, I feel like that's when you kinda have to reflect a bit and say, "Am I leaving a path of hurt people and just kinda moving on and just everybody else is the problem and, like, I don't mind?" You know what I mean? Like, I think that particularly for me, the deeper thing was that avoidance that we were talking about and just checking the fact that I was insecure and self-conscious about being wrong. And even like not having grace and space for people who think different than me and thinking if you're my friend, you have to think exactly the way you have to like the things I like. And if there's too much difference, then maybe we shouldn't be friends. Like I feel like that those kind of things I stopped and were like, I feel like for the past couple of years, and it's still a work in progress. I feel like I'm also the oldest,
Mhm.
and I was in, gifted and talented and magnet programs and all that, and so, you forget how, like, internalized the perfectionist and, like, being right like, you were validated and almost identified by how smart you were and how much you knew and how advanced you were, and
Girl.
so, I kinda had to challenge that, and I'm like, "You're kind of self-righteous and a little bit, like, egotistical, and that may be causing you to, like, not be a good friend." I've recently had to really reflect and be like, "Am I a good friend?" Like, there might be a
Mm.
situation kinda like the girl who walked off that, like, she was tripping, but in the case where I feel like I was the bad guy to my friend, like, have there been other situations where I just was being super avoidant and super into myself? Um, and that may be like a character flaw that I need to kind of address.
That's a good point. Even the whole, like, just being egotistical and kind of the self-righteous because you've been so validated, and it's crazy. I was thinking about that the other day, like, I was kind of just trained and primed to be good at things, and now I feel like I'm in a point in my life where I'm doing a lot of learning and I'm not good at certain things, and so now I'm like, "What the fuck is going on? Y'all told me I was good my whole life." and now I'm not good.
Yes. Now I'm just mediocre? What's
Yeah,
that?
yeah, so I definitely get that, and I do agree. I think, like, if you're constantly only making decisions just for yourself consistently, then I think that being the bad guy is a deeper issue. Um,
Uh-huh.
there were 2 more. So one is a lack of an apology or remorse. I agree with that one. Yeah, I agree. I think, again, some scenarios like what we've mentioned, we may look back and be like, "Yeah, I wasn't that remorseful," or, "Okay, half, whatever." But consistently not feeling remorseful for shit that you've done, okay, that's a bit crazy.
That's a problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, do you feel things? Do you feel
Yeah.
empathy? Like,
Hello?
what's going on?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. Like, yeah, that's crazy. I just think, yeah. And then the last one was manipulation, exploitation, and dishonesty. And I think that one I agree with. And that one is tricky because the dishonesty part is tricky for me because sometimes people are dishonest because they're trying to hide things or because they're afraid of what people really think of them. The
Yeah,
exploitation and the manipulation is a lot more like straightforward to me. Like, that's crazy. That to me is
yeah,
like those are bad traits. I feel
yeah,
like, you know?
yeah, yeah,
But the dishonest part is like, okay, well, if the girl lied to you, told you couldn't come over because she said she was busy, but really it's because, like, she has an unstable home and she just doesn't want you to see that.
mm,
I don't know.
yeah,
Can't judge her. You know what I mean?
right.
So that I agree with. Like, I agree with manipulation and exploitation. I think that constantly doing that over and over again that's bad.
Yes. That is a habitual problem.
Yeah, but dishonesty is like, yes, you shouldn't be dishonest, but there are some cases where I'm like, okay, I see where you're
Yeah,
coming from, you know?
yeah, and, like, also that kinda reminds me of, like, you do kind of owe other people honesty with yourself, like,
Mhm.
I don't know, taking the time to be like, "Well, what was true for me?" And, like, "What is my truth about this?" And I think it's a good way to check in to be like, "Am I acting out because I don't wanna face a truth,
Hmm.
within myself?" Because I feel like that's how it was for me when I was kinda being dishonest by omission, like, I wasn't speaking up when things were bothering me in the friendship,
Yeah. Mhm.
and that dishonesty created a situation where I was kinda lying and just manipulating the situation and making her think that things were good when they weren't. So it doesn't even have to just be like, to your point, it is tricky because it doesn't have to just be like, "Oh, I told a lie, and I was, like, purposeful with that." It could be a little bit more convoluted than that, I feel like.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and it could even be like, especially sometimes when we're getting to the age where people are at different places financially, people are also at different places in relationships, and, like, I had a friend who hit me up and she was like, "Girl, listen, I'm in this situation right now with this man. We're not gonna tell the other friend until I'm out of it." And I was like, "Girl, don't worry, it's fine."
Secret safe with me.
Yeah, she's like, "I know she gonna judge me. She gonna laugh at me and say I should have never let this man in my house, but listen, we gotta I said, "Don't worry, it's fine. It's fine. We'll deal with it." So like that, because sometimes we really just it's hard. It's
Like,
so
that's
hard because
good. I think that's
yeah,
good,
and like
like
and that's why, like, I really do try to be as open with my friends and the people around me to be like, "Girl, I promise you, I don't care. I will not judge you."
yeah,
You know? So my friend
yeah.
was like, "Yeah, girl, hey, I let this man stay at my house for a week. Like, don't." I said, "Don't." Girl, is he out now? Yep. Okay, cool. Then we can talk about it now.
Is it over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know? But and I get it too. And it's like, you want to lie and say that your man bought you all these gifts on Valentine's Day, but really he told you happy Valentine's Day and gave you a nice card, and that's great too. But it's like you want to flex on the group chat. Like, shit happens.
That's so
And I
real.
tell my friends, I'm like, listen, this is what it is. We ain't flexing over here. We're building something, and that's it.
Yes,
So
I love
don't
that.
expect me to be sending pictures of Gucci Louis. We're
Oh,
not
no.
there.
Oh, no.
Oh my god. Okay, so last question, girl. So what are some ways that you feel like you have, or that you can, or people in general can kind of counter that feeling of being the bad person, especially for both of us. I feel like I can speak for us in this case, where it's like we want to be perceived as good, or we not only do we want to be perceived as good, we also want to feel like, damn, like, okay, I left that situation clean, or I did the best that I could. So what are some ways that you're kind of using to counter that feeling of like, damn, like I feel like I'm the bad person in that scenario?
Yeah. I think a really good way is just reflection, especially when you have a situation where there was friction, or discord or
Mm.
something like that. I used to physically write in my journal. These days, I do like voice memo, like voice
Yep.
journaling, and kind of reflecting and being like, okay, from my perspective, this is what happened, and like, where did that go wrong, and could I have done anything better? Like, genuinely, almost like survey and audit yourself, and kind of try to reflect, and maybe wait until you're not as emotional, like, because you may retell the story in a warped and emotional way as well. So, I think just creating a little bit of space to chill and to root yourself in reality, and then reflect on the scenario, their actions, your actions, or maybe just even focus on your actions, um, and really kind of do a self-inventory. I feel like that is just the perfect place to start, and then muster up the courage to be vulnerable. I
Mhm.
think, those of us who are perfectionists and those of us who want to be perceived as good and smart and right and righteous, although I may be coming from a good spot, it can cause you to be manipulative and overbearing and just in all these things. Instead of focusing on, like, looking right and being right, um, ground yourself in reality. You know what I mean? You're kind of manipulating a situation by trying to make yourself look like the hero, like, that's just not good.
Mhm.
And so I think, having a bit of humility and extending yourself to the other person and being like, "Hey, obviously we know that didn't go the way it was supposed to go. I kind of stepped away and reflected. This is what I came up with. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Maybe we can talk it out." And you have to leave that ego at the door. I feel
Mhm.
like there's so many things that pride and ego hold us back from, and I think, like, self-improvement and growth is on the other side of, like, your pride a lot of times.
Yeah.
If it feels sticky and uncomfortable, you're probably right where you need to be, even though you wanna back out of that situation as quick as possible. But I would start there. I would start with a bit of self-reflection and humility and vulnerability when you go back in to, like, reapproach the situation.
Mhm. I like that a lot. I do think it's funny that you said, even though you want to be perceived as right and you want to be right, you're manipulating the situation. Yeah, facts. And then the focus on wanting to look right or be right. And I think too, you honestly covered it. I think I would just say like don't like you mentioned, um, those conversations happen on the other side of pride. And yeah, don't let your pride get in the way of mending relationships, especially those that are important to you. That is a lesson that I'm taking away. Um, and also just being okay with admitting your fault. And then at least when you admit your fault, hopefully the other person meets you where you're at, admits their fault too, or understands you, and then you can work through that. Um, but yeah, no, those were really good. Thank you for sharing, girl.
Course.
This has been a great conversation.
Oh my god, yeah. I'm,
Like,
like, reflecting in real time,
me
like, "Wow,
too.
okay, this is a good reminder conversation of, like," especially that last point where you said, like, "Don't be afraid to mend things." I
Mm.
come from a lineage of you will get cut off. And, like, you cut off first, ask questions never. Like, so it has taken me a long time to kind of, like, get that skill of, like, "No, this is worth saving." And even the friend from the story was like, "I'm not letting you in this friendship." Like, she straight up said, "I'm not letting you in this friendship because I don't think you've given me anything, any real reason to do so." And it
Hmm.
forced me, and I thank her from time to time for having that response. She showed me so much love, and she said, "I love you and I wanna be friends with you, and yeah, no, we're gonna have to get to the bottom of this because I'm not okay with the friendship ending." And if she hadn't have fought for that in that moment, who knows where we would be. Um, but yes, like, to just reiterate your point, like, do not be afraid to mend and tuck that tail between your legs and just get on with it, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm. I also think, yeah, mending. I just looked at my notes. I had forgiveness, which is a good one too. Forgiveness, I think, and for me specifically, and for those who, maybe you make decisions out of fear, recognizing that you avoided that conversation because it was hard or because you were afraid of what you would say. And y- you actually just said something that brought something to my mind, when you said, like working through it and mending. I think sometimes in that perfectionism or that wanting things to be a certain way, I think if I'm reflecting right now too, some of the things, some of the actions is also on some like, the shit is too messy. Let's just move on. Versus like, you know what I mean? Like, when it's like you just want a clean slate because you feel like it's
Yes.
too messy to like work through the relationship.
Mhm.
And sometimes the things really are worth you like sitting and sifting through the mess and like figuring it out. Some
Yeah.
things are not, but some are, right? And
True.
maybe on another episode we'll talk about how to know when it's actually worth sticking through the mess.
That's
But
a good
right,
topic. Yeah,
okay.
because especially because a lot of us will sit there and work through that shit with that nigga.
But not with the
We'll sit
friends.
there and try to figure out, did I need to do this? Did I need to do that? Can I say this? Can I say that? But when it comes to the platonic and maybe familiar relationships, we're like, we're done with it.
Mm,
So that may be something to dig into because like,
okay. Yeah.
you
So
make it work with that man.
girl,
So
so you made it work with that man. You better make it work with the girl, with your friend.
okay.
Um, but yeah, no, just saying like, some things are worth fighting for. And,
Yeah.
don't let that like perfectionist one in a clean slate, cause you to just kind of move on too quickly. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, thank you, BK girl. This was great. Thank you. This is why I love having you on, because it always just feels so comfortable. It feels
Um,
like we're literally just on a phone call that we're recording. And
yes,
that's like
I
slightly
know.
scripted, but that's it.
It's actually so crazy that we've never met in person
I
before. Like
know.
the
And I
energy
really
was
want that to stop right
yes.
now.
I need to like make my way up there
Yeah,
actually.
you
Like
you you
I want
do,
to
because listen, I have one trip booked for ATL, and
okay.
yeah, for ATL this month. And
Oh my
yes,
god. That
and
should be have you ever been?
yes, I've been there
Okay.
once and it was great. And I'm excited.
It's
I'm
been
I'm gonna get to explore. And I'm
yeah.
like, ooh, can I come see you in because you're in Houston, right?
I'm in Dallas.
Oh yes, you're in Dallas,
Yeah.
Texas. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Okay. And I
quite a
was like,
ways away.
but
But
see, the way that the US and Canada have tension right now,
girl,
they're
girl,
telling
that
me they're telling me this is my last trip for the year. They're talking about they're a little rough with us at the border.
okay, we're gonna have to talk about that off
Yes,
camera
we will definitely talk
because I
offline.
have just been really curious about what that is from like because from on the ground perspective and like
Hmm.
yeah, I mean I've been to Quebec like once. That's all.
Yeah.
Like years ago. And that's it. That's all I know. And I was like, "Oh my god, black people speak French here?" Like it
Yeah.
was I was such an American.
Wow. No igloos?
But yeah, no, this was awesome. Thank you always for thinking of me and I just love having conversations with you. Like you're so
Yeah.
just I don't know, you challenge me in different ways, but then we're so like-minded in the ways that like
Yeah.
make me feel good. So, thanks so much for
Yeah.
having
For
me.
real. No, I'm so grateful to you. So, before we do end off, I'm gonna ask you 4 fun questions, lighthearted, and I'm actually interested to hear your answers to this because this will kind of tell me a little bit more about where you are right now in life.
Okay.
But yeah, just real quick, the first thing that comes to mind, the first question, passion or stability? And this is with anything, girl. Job, love, money, yeah, life.
Stability.
Yeah.
At this point
Mhm.
in life,
Yeah.
stability.
Girl said if we're stable enough, I can find the passion.
Oh,
Oh, man. Okay. Would you rather have more money or more time? I think I know the answer to this one.
girl, more money.
Oh, really? Girl,
Yes.
intellectual like you, I thought you would say more time.
Girl, more time at this point, at this stage in like 2025, late stage capitalism, I don't know what it's gonna look like
Yeah.
in terms of so I don't no, 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 no. I would like more money and maybe the more money could buy me more time, low key. I would have more leisure I would have more leisure.
Correct. Okay. Oh, wow. You're making me think because every time I put that question, I'm like, they're going to say more time because, it's the cute thing to say. But no, you made a good point. You made a good
Yeah.
point. Give me the money. Like, I'll use that money in ways you ain't never seen and I'll have more time.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Would you describe yourself as a homebody or a life of the party?
Ooh. I will say I do prefer to be at home. I do prefer to be in my big t-shirt and slippers and sweatpants, like cuddled up with my cat. I do prefer that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I am out, I am the small talker that people like are like, how do you do small talk? I just love sparking up conversations with people. And I'm not afraid if I've had like the right amount of alcohol, I'll get in the center of the circle and dance. I don't care. Um, yeah, I would say when I'm home and I would prefer that. But I also don't mind being the life of the party. And I totally take up that role if need be.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you. I feel like summertime, I'm feeling good. I have a mojito or margarita in my hand.
Yep.
I'm dancing to my girls. Life of the party.
Oh yeah.
Winter, fall, leaves are changing color. I'm sipping something at home, a warm beverage, and I'm looking out my window. Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how I feel. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay, last question. If money wasn't a problem, what's one thing about your lifestyle that would change?
Um, I probably wouldn't work. Or I would work much, much, much less because I do love massage. Um, and I I would still do it. And even after I graduate from grad school, I'll still keep my license and everything like that. Like I truly do love massage. Um, and I would probably like podcast more. I would just be investing more of my time and like, you know, money into upping my tech and
Mm-hmm.
hiring an editor. Girl,
Girl.
ah, that's about to change my life when I get an editor. Yeah, I would focus more like on my hobbies and I would work a lot less.
Same, girl. Yeah. I would do this podcast. I would travel. I would probably do an audio documentary or an audio
Oh,
video, probably
mm,
documentary on like the Black diaspora.
oh my
Because as a
God.
West African woman, I just feel like there's so much that I want to like talk about and connect between like Black Americans, Black Canadians,
Yeah.
West Africa, especially East Africa too, but this specifically West Africa, the Caribbean, and then
Mm,
like Black British. Like, there's just so much
so
to like
much.
talk about that I'm like, oh, this is what I
Yeah.
really want to do. But for now,
We
mm,
clocking in and clocking
exactly, exactly.
out.
But thank you so much, girl. Before I let you go, just go ahead, share your socials, let people know where they can find you and check out all
Yeah.
your content.
Yeah, what's up? Okay. I'm mainly on YouTube right now, so you can find me at LATM Pod on YouTube. Definitely go subscribe to me there. You can definitely find some like fun stuff on TikTok. I don't post as much there anymore because the short form got very
Oh,
burdensome for me. But I still kind of like have fun over there. I'm at LATM Pod over there too, and I'm at LATM Pod on all socials. So definitely follow up with me if you're interested in culture, if you're interested in hip hop, with a little bit of like a political like class analysis. I'm your girl.
yes. Definitely go ahead and check out her content, girl. It is good. It's good. It's detailed. It's nuanced. And
Thank
that's
you.
what we need, nuanced conversations.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, thank you so much for being on this podcast again, girl. Appreciate
Of
you.
course. Thanks so much for having me on. It was great.
All right, y'all. So with that, we are at the end of this podcast episode. Thank you for listening to my conversation with BK as we talked about, just the concept of being the bad person or the villain in someone else's story, girl. And, I'm not too proud. If you listen to the main conversation, I'm not too proud of how things went down last year, but I've learned from it and I'm doing better. But if you enjoyed our conversation, make sure you keep the conversation going on Instagram at BWDIK Podcast. You can engage and interact with the reels that we'll post about this. You can watch it on YouTube. Please go ahead and support BK with her content as well. Her information will be in this episode description. Of course, please make sure that you complete the survey to help me and the team plan out our programming and content for this year. Share with a girl you feel will enjoy this podcast, who needs to hear this conversation. Stay well, and y'all will hear from me in the next 2 weeks. Bye for now.